for this event, so occasionally when we get judge calls, I have to leave the booth. But I'll give you as much awesome coverage as possible while these players do take their mulligans. If you have any comments or questions about the matches, feel free to post them in the uh, Twitch chat, or you can check out any of our other content on MTG Training Grounds on YouTube, or you can find us on Facebook. Like us, follow us, post messages, whatever. We are enthusiastic to hear about what you like, what you don't, what you want to see, what you don't want to see. Looks like both players have kept their hands and are ready to go. JC pushed his top card to the bottom. Jason has decided to leave his on top. JC leads off on a Badlands into a Deathrite Shaman. Jason has a Verdant Catacomb fetching what I assume is going to be, yep, a scrubland. I was going to say it's either a scrubland or a bayou, sort of their turn one finds because you need the black mana early. He could have a Deathrite Shaman of his own. He may also be playing that Dark Confidant or just a Chalice on one. Now, obviously that Chalice is much less punishing against Punishing Jund because they have Abrupt Decays and plenty of 2, 3, and 4 mana drops, so they're not as hurt by it. Looks like Deathrite Shaman is on the Warpath, and a Hymn to Turak is going to strip Drinkard of 2 of his cards at random, using the official, or I should say officially the most common randomization method of rolling a die and assigning numbers to the cards. Let's see what we got here. That is a Dark Confidant and a Gaddock Teague, both good hits. Goldman sends it back. Looks like the draw for turn was another land. We're going to have a cycle of a cycle land. Replacement finds a wasteland. Not exactly the card you're looking for in this position. His hand consists of a wasteland, an abrupt decay, and a Grove of the Burn Willows. So none of these incredibly effective here, although I believe the decay will be taking care of Deathrite Shaman just to prevent a turn 3 the elf, Cascade Elf. But here is Mr. Goyf himself, as JC had the green mana the whole time, and we may see a wasteland take care of that green mana source. Try and keep JC from deploying more threats. Although we have a Green Sun Zenith for 3. This is almost certainly, yep, excuse me, the Reliquary, which is one of the few creatures that can actually outpace the size of Tarmogoyf. Not sure how big it is right now. It's got to have at least 3 cards in the yard, making it a 4/5, I believe. Although I think we saw an Abrupt Decay in JC's hand, so he'll probably be able to make short work of this night and continue the beats. Looks like JC's draw for turn was a land, fetch land, which will get him probably a backup green source, either another bayou or just a basic forest. He's playing a Tarmogoyf and an Abrupt Decay and crushing for the full Monty. JC in a very commanding position right now. Probably just go for the basic forest. Yep, that's it's the best one now. See, this is a great example of when Chalice of the Void is at its worst against the deck that has lots of 2 mana threats. Just does not care. Drinkard is going to need some pretty rock solid draws to get back into this game. Now, being able to cut off 2 lands is a good start. Oh, another Green Sun Zenith. And suddenly, we're right back right back into this game. Looks like that Tarmogoyf was only a 4-power Tarmogoyf, um, as JC has not dealt with an artifact yet to finish pumping them up. But uh, all is not lost, as a Bloodbraid Elf shows up to the party and brings along a Deathrite Shaman, which is still cast. So yes, it would trigger the Chalice of the Void, which Jason did not miss. Tarmogoyf comes in, or the pair of Tarmogoyfs come in for 8. Now this leads me to believe that Knight of the Reliquary is only a 4/4. It must only be a pair of lands in the graveyard. Now there are sufficient number of lands that Knight of the Reliquary. Now the problem here is that even so the trick here is that something like a Glacial Chasm or a Maze of Ith will keep Jason from dying. I wasn't sure exactly what the call was, but presumably JC's going to attack with all 3 of his creatures, and the Maze of Ith will save one of them, but JC's not falling for it, and the Knight is going to tutor up some defenses. Maybe something like a Dryad Arbor, or just another fetch land to sort of pump the Knight even larger. Although I think it's worth noting that maybe, this was just a land swap in order to pump up the Knight. Punishing Jund does play some number of wastelands itself, but I don't think Jason can play around everything. He has to at some point kind of go for it. Not sure what the draw step was there, but at this point JC could pretty easily rip anything other than a lightning bolt. Now this Light from the Loam, on the other hand, is a good way to kickstart some problems for Goldman. Being able to waste lock your opponent. Looks like the other card is a Caracas. Now, if JC has something like an Abrupt Decay to find and a Lightning Bolt in hand, he can just end the game on that. There's a lot of live draws. Liliana the Veil. Looks as though Goldman found Thoughtseize, not a card he particularly wanted. I think we'll see an end of turn cycle here, and probably the Knight will swap out for another Wasteland, and we'll see Jason try and waste lock JC out of this game. It's a slow go though. Could also go this route and get the Thespian stage combo and try and just kill JC in one solid hit. This will provide an additional blocker as well. So what looked like a really good game for JC is slowly slipping away. However, that does not mean JC is without outs. Liliana is still a live draw here. I think an Abrupt Decay would do it. Punishing Fire is not enough. It might have been a turn or two ago, but at this point it's not. No, I guess it wasn't ever. Not sure. It's gonna have to be something good. Even another creature would be enough here. Just another Bloodbraid Elf. Well, I guess it would have to be a Bloodbraid Elf specifically. It has to be something that can attack right away. Now this attack can slow down Jason's plan. because he will be pressed into finding the Maze of Ith. Now, part of the activation of Knight of the Reliquary does require that he sacrifice a land, yeah. Not that he was going to miss that. But like I said before, I think Maze of Ith is the target that has to be found here. So the Bloodbraid Elf will be the creature I assume that gets through, and Jason will fall to just 3 life. 3 damage, and JC's draw was simply a land. It's like a Liliana of the Veil also, but Jason doesn't have the mana to cast a Liliana right now. He actually has no forests or plains, period. Wasteland right now could deal with the punishing, or whatever it's called, Grove of the Burn Willows. If he doesn't answer the Grove now, actually, Punching Fire is an out for Goldman. I believe the Thespian stage cloned a Maze of Ith with the mana that was floating before activating the Maze of Ith. So Jason actually has 2 mazes and a knight right now. He still can't attack with the knight because Wasteland for Goldman is lethal then. But that's fine, because the longer this game goes on for the Aggro Loam player, the better. Goldman gains a life, and a Green Sun Zenith for 2. Wonder what we are going for here. Scavenging Ooze. The additional blocker there is a big help. Now, not having any lands to activate it means that if JC were to draw something like another Bloodbraid Elf, he could just kill with that. Knight of the Reliquary attacks for 7. And Maze of Ith untaps it. Not sure how that works. I assume it does. That you can attack with your creature, it deals combat damage, and then I guess it's still an attacking creature even after damage has been dealt, so you can use it to remove it from combat post attack. JC goes ahead and breaks both of his fetch lands end of turn. He knows his goose is just about cooked, and he's going to need an answer, like a game-winning spell this turn. So minimizing the number of land draws is a good way to kickstart things. We'll see what the draw is. Not sure what he found, but it looks as though it is an Inquisition, and I believe that will probably be just about the end of this game, as Jason now has an Abyss lock more or less going with his Knight of the Reliquary and Scavenging Ooze. But we will see. Jason has navigated this game very well. The amount of mana available to Jason of the appropriate color, like green in this case, is pretty limited. So that's a little problematic. Jason falls to 2 from his fetch land. And we will see what he decides to do with his remaining mana. He uses the Wasteland to destroy his own Karakas, and that presents lethal uh, in just that one attack. JC opting not to block, sort of left himself vulnerable there. Now, the sideboards, should have been pulling these up in the meantime, apologize. But there we have JC's, and I will get Jason's in just a second. Now, given that Jason was on earlier, we should have already had his handy, but yeah, there we go. So, Jason's sideboard consists of one Ethersworn Canonist, one Containment Priest, one Reclamation Sage, one Choke, two Leyline of the Void, two Thalia Guardian of Thraben, one Garruk Relentless, one Maelstrom Pulse, two Thoughtseize, a Toxic Deluge, a Slaughter Games, and a Pithy Needle. I think in this matchup, he definitely wants to have the Garruk Relentless and the Maelstrom Pulse. Additional removal spells, if you will, are solid, and they're bigger mana spells, and in these matchups they're not over quick typically, so the bigger mana plays are much more powerful. The Toxic Deluge is probably a good game. It's one of the cleanest and fastest answers to a horde of Tarmogoyf. Other than that, I don't really know that any of these are all that important. Leyline of the Void doesn't. This isn't the kind of matchup where, I mean, Jund is dependent on its graveyard, but I don't think you're gaining too much value out of Leyline. Thalia, while decent, is kind of the wimpiest creature against things like Tarmogoyf and all the removal. So I think those will be the cards coming in. And as for what comes out, I'm not entirely sure. Probably the Chalice of the Voids. They're fairly dead in this matchup. They did a little bit of work in that game later on by stopping. Well, I guess they were only stopping Thoughtseizes, so they really didn't stop anything. No, I think the Chalices are definitely the cards to bring out. From Goldman's side, we have a Pernicious Deed. I think that's a great card. Toxic Deluge, probably for the same reason. Engineered Plague, probably not the matchup for that. Chains of Mephistopheles, definitely not the matchup for that. Umaza's Jite, that is a card that is definitely worth bringing in. When fighting creature mirror, creature wars, Umaza's Jite is best. Grafdigger's Cage, two of Grafdigger's Cage. That could be good. It's really good against Green Sun Zenith. We'll see if it's good enough. One Golgari Charm, don't think that'll come in. Two Mindbreak Traps, don't need that. One Engineered Explosives, which maybe I don't think this is the kind of matchup where I think that's probably more for one's matchups where there are tokens or things like Counterbalance that you have to get around. One Scavenging Ooze. This is definitely a good matchup for Scavenging Ooze. Both players want to deplete their opponent's graveyard as best they can, especially when fighting over things like Punishing Fire. Two Pyroblasts. Don't think we'll see that. And a one of Fire Covenant. Maybe it's a little slow, a little pricey. I don't think that's the things you want. As for what to bring out, probably the Thought Seizes. There's no like specific cards you want to pick out of your opponent's hands. The Inquisitions could go too. Honestly, you just want more high impact cards, things like Pernicious Deed, Scavenging Ooze, Numaza's Jite, and get rid of the Hand Disruption, which not only is vulnerable to Chalice, but is also just not very effective in the matchup. So both players are shuffling up. I'm going to take a second to talk about some of the other video content MTG Training Grounds produces. We have the Legacy Tour coverage like you're watching now, and all of this will be available on our YouTube page once I've got the video edited. But you might also want to check out our webcast, Legacy's Allure, where we have featured guests who discuss the premier Legacy decks and other strategic content with us. You may wish to check out the arena, which is sort of a battle series where two premier legacy decks are paired up against one another in a best of five match set, and sort of showcasing what each of the decks does and how they perform. All that content's available on our YouTube page. Just search for MTG Training Grounds, and I'm sure you'll be able to find it. Or follow us on Facebook at the group MTG Training Grounds, and there will be links to our YouTube page from there. Jason has mulliganed to 6. Looks like he has the infamous opener of some removal, Mox Diamond, and Dryad Arbor. Always a winner in your opener. But JC opens on a basic land, Swamp, and Deathrite Shaman. I think we'll see Jason take care of that pronto. Probably just play the Mox Diamond, get rid of that lousy Dryad Arbor, and nuke the little guy down right away. Yep, and there he goes, dead as they can be. But that does cost him some cards, and Jason's already on a mulligan to 6. He now has only 3 cards in hand, 2 removal spells, and a spare land. Maelstrom, Pulse, and Abrupt Decay amongst them. Now JC does not have green mana yet, so this can't be something like a Tarmogoyf. Oh, and JC decides to use the Engineered Explosives to deal with the early Mox Diamond, which maybe he's hoping Jason's kept a land light hand. Looks like the draw for turn was a Lightning Bolt, Graft Digger's Cage for Goldman, and no third land. Worth noting if Jason finds something like a Life from the Loam or a Wasteland, he could really put himself in a strong position here. Now, we saw Jason had a Liliana the Veil, and it looks as though we're going to see that deployed here. Probably go find something like a Scrubland and a Bayou, complete all of his colored mana requirements while also deploying that Liliana the Veil, getting her started. Looks as though JC has his own Liliana the Veil, and what I think is a Bloodbraid Elf, but he's certainly a few turns off from casting that. Looks as though there may have been a lot of pressure put on that Deathrite Shaman to perform here. JC is going to discard the Bloodbraid Elf, which is certainly not going to resolve or going to be cast anytime soon. JC going for the old 2 for 3 of two Lightning Bolts to your Liliana. Ooh, and JC has played his own Liliana after drawing a Wasteland, and now is ticking his up. Probably going to play the Liliana battle, which is a real thing. JC has drawn his 3rd Lightning Bolt to deal with Liliana and ticks his up to 5 now. Now this is the position you want to be in if you're JC. Looks as though Jason has drawn nothing but another land, and JC's only issue here will be if he draws a green creature and is unable to deploy it, which I suspect may be what just happened. Yep, there goes the Tarmogoyf. But getting your Liliana charged all the way up is definitely the route you want to go when you have that option available to you. And in this case, JC can actually make really good use of his Liliana by ticking it up to 7 and then having the ultimate sort of as a threat looming over Jason's head. Jason can't actually draw additional cards per turn outside of something like a Life from the Loam, which would be a really, really powerful draw here. We will see what JC decides to do. His draw step, I presume, was another green spell, and JC's probably going to just toss that as well. Yep, it was the Maelstrom Pulse. Jason trying to avoid drawing too many more lands, maybe trying to thin his deck and improve his draws, has been fetching a little aggressively, getting those non-basics out of there. And if he can find something like a Punishing Fire, he can start working this Liliana back the other direction, or a Knight of the Reliquary would also take it down. It would simply die to the Liliana, but Mox Diamond was the draw. Liliana moves on up to 8. And, ooh, now we've got a good one. Garruk Relentless shows up to start making some wolves. In the long haul, that Garruk will outpower the Liliana. It makes 2/2 wolves per turn. We don't have any wolf tokens, unfortunately. It's not something I'm used to seeing on Legacy feature match coverage. But there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Garrick Relentless squaring off against his Innistrad nemesis, Liliana of the Veil. Liliana has gone ultimate. Going to have permanents split both directions. We'll have, I assume, yeah, we've got the non-land permanents and both groves paired with the other 4 lands. It looks like that might be JC's decision, and Jason is happy losing a bunch of lands. I think if I was JC, I may have considered leaving one of those groves in that pile as well, because that would force Jason to choose between Life from the Loam as an option. Now he can still cut him off of it, it seems. Maybe. Oh, another Liliana is going to take care of that wolf token, but that is not where it ends. Another wolf token will be incoming here, and long term, JC has got to find himself an answer to that. Liliana can take the last card away from Jason, and something like a punishing. Oh wow, that was clutch. The punishing fire will ultimately deal with all of the problems long term. JC being able to buy back his punishing fire to keep the wolves at bay will allow Liliana the Veil to sort of take the game in stride. It was a timely draw for Goldman. Liliana ticks up. We're going to lose a Dark Confidant, and the punishing fire once again takes down the wolf. Grove of the Burn Willows buying back the punishing fire again. I think we might see this little procedure repeated multiple times. The wolf is gone, and this leaves JC with the punishing fire in hand and the ability to kill off that wolf on the end step and take care of Garrick Relentless the following turn. Jason's fetched looks like a Badlands. A little bit of glare there, can't quite tell, but I assume this means he has a play of his own, and it is Scavenging Ooze. So with that, he'll be able to buy himself another turn with an active Garrick Relentless. But even that is somewhat defeatist long term, as JC with the punishing fire loop is just favored to win this. Kim de Torak is gone. Jason loses his own Liliana, and I think we'll see maybe a punishing fire to take care of the wolf, and the little Deathrite Shaman can start dealing with Garrick. Or maybe not. Maybe it's possible JC's plan. Oh, no. Oh, we may have a error here. The Garrick needs to what is that? Transform, I think is the name of the mechanic. Whenever it's possible JC didn't actually want to do that, because now the Garrick, instead of staying at 3, can actually go up to make wolves, and it seems Jason has found a punishing fire of his own. So now we've sort of gotten ourselves into a stalemate. The punishing fires can continue to deal with the wolves. Of course, now that there's no Liliana of the Veil to protect, it's possible JC just wants to finish off that Garrick and then deal with the wolves in his own time. Unfortunately, not having the Liliana means he can't keep Jason's hand stripped down, and at some point he may find a land of his own to start recurring punishing fire, and then we get into that, long and grinding game. One wolf attacks, and a dark depths for Drinkard. Punishing fire rerouted to Garrick here. So JC is debating whether he wants to try and use his Deathrite Shaman, but he probably knows better. He would like to keep that Deathrite Shaman active in case Jason tries to recur his punishing fire. As long as Deathrite Shaman is available, the punishing fire can be exiled in response to the trigger. It's like Goldman has found himself a pernicious deed, which can also deal with those wolf tokens. And the believe we have a mistake here. I'm gonna step away from the microphone real quick and resolve that. I do not believe the Garrick Relentless should die. I believe that rule was changed. Just a second. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we were able to get that resolved. So my original statement was true. The converted mana cost of a permanent that has transformed is whatever the converted mana cost was on the front side of the face. Although that doesn't actually matter. What's more important in this case is that Pernicious Deed does not destroy Planeswalkers, period. So not only would it not get it on the converted mana cost issue, it also won't get it on the fact that it's a Planeswalker. So, in my absence, it looks like some Dark Confidants have resolved, and a Wasteland took care of the Grove of the Burn Willows, so just like that, Jason is back in the driver's seat again. His Garrick is slowly ticking up, making some wolves. Those are 1/1 Death Touch wolves when on the transformed side, and a Dark Confidant has found, I believe that was a Mox Diamond, which isn't a whole lot of use to Jason right now, but maybe in the long term will be. Punishing fire. takes care of Goldman's uh, Dark Confidant, and JC's going to take the opportunity to uh, get rid of that Punishing Fire. JC's draw for turn was a land. I presume he'll use that right away to take care of the other Grove of the Burn Willows. Maybe not. Guess he doesn't absolutely have to, given that there is no Punishing Fire in the graveyard. But it would help alleviate any future draws. Long term, this Garrick, like we said earlier, represents a very big problem for JC. Any planeswalker that's able to sit on the table and activate multiple times in a game just generates its own sort of virtual card advantage, and Punishing Jund has a hard time recuperating from something like that. I mean, of all decks, it's one that's probably best at it, in that it can generate cards through Punishing Fire loops or Dark Confidant, but this is even more powerful than that. It's a stream of blockers, and in this case, it's a stream of attackers as well. Second Bob joins the party, and with Garrick at ultimate ability, I'm not sure how many creatures are in the graveyard. There's at least one, or there was one. Um, Looks like JC has opted to gain some life end of turn and perhaps get rid of the Dryad Arbor from earlier in the game. Yep. Nope. Dryad Arbor's still in the graveyard, so the Garrick ability even has some utility there. Draw for turn was Scavenging Ooze. A good draw under normal circumstances, but this is not an answer to all the tokens. And I think JC may be kicking himself right now for transforming that Garrick, in that it now represents a lethal threat. Some lucky reveals with Bob. Just a bunch of lands. Enables the Mox Diamond and just a basic land drop. Sorry, not a basic land, a regular land drop. It's like Jason has a Green Sun Zenith, which he can't use because of the Grafdigger's Cage, but not sure. The life totals are 14 all. Not sure how many creatures are in Jason's graveyard, but it probably doesn't matter. Because all of the guys are coming in. Scavenging Ooze is going to block one of the Dark Confidants, and Deathrite Shaman is going to make some green mana to exile another creature out of Jason's graveyard, Dark Confidant. So JC is able to gain a life with the Scavenging Ooze and kill off one of the Dark Confidants, and he takes 6 damage remaining, so he'll fall to 11. Garrick probably going to make another wolf here, all the way up to 7 loyalty counters. There's the Mox Diamond. See what the follow-up is here. This is 4 mana for a Green Sun Zenith on 4. Or X equals to 3. Grafdigger's Cage won't allow it. And both the cards go back into Jason's deck. I believe Jason forgot about the Grafdigger's Cage. Or maybe he was hoping that JC would miss it. Regardless, the Green Sun Zenith resolves and shuffles itself back into the library. And I think we'll see JC taking his turn in just a second. Getting the life total dice updated. See what the draw is here. JC could really use something like a Golgari Charm. I think that would be really strong draw at this point. Looks like JC is considering sending the turn back. Not sure what his draw was. Tarmogoyf. Tarmogoyf looks kind of weak in the face of all these death touch 1/1s. And he's forced to just send the turn back. Punishing Fire is the reveal for Dark Confidant. Not good for Goldman. That's the kind of card that can help clear up the board here and make short work of what remains of his creatures. Dark Confidant was the draw for turn. And a Thespian stage in hand. Maybe that was the draw. Couldn't quite tell. Regardless, that combined with the Dark Depth, will make the 2020 Merit Lage token. And all of this wolf token making and bob fights could be for naught when the lands combo kill produces a 2020 and ends it out of nowhere. We'll see if Jason's willing to pull the trigger on that. Now JC has a wasteland to sort of protect himself, but Jason could just go for it right now while that wasteland is tapped, and he would be able to. He would only have to dodge a draw of Liliana the Veil, which actually no, even Liliana can't stop it. The wolves alone will do enough work. They can be the sacrificial fodder. I believe that the Dark Depths combo is good to go here. Looks like Jason has opted to use Garrick's -1, a replica of the Survival of the Fittest combo. And there, I believe that was the Thespian stage. Now, like I said, I think it's probably correct to just go for the 2020 here. Jund has virtually no answers, main or post board. But Jason's content to just continue grinding this game out, and here comes Knight of the Reliquary to really press his advantage. And to turn Goldman. It's using Deathrite Shaman, probably to exile a land and then eat that Dark Confidant with his Scavenging Ooze. I think we may see the Punishing Fire in response here to get rid of the Deathrite Shaman. Well, maybe not. Jason's graveyard at this point looks to be bigger than his library. And I guess it's possible JC's plan to win here is the hope that Dark Confidant is unkind and reveals something like another 4-mana spell. JC's going to go ahead and wasteland the Dark Depths before Jason gets an opportunity to use his Thespian stage. Although we know that that isn't his plan anyway. He's got the Punishing Fire available at any time, so that really hampers his ability to use Deathrite Shaman as a win condition also. Don't imagine there's any great attacks here to be had. There's just too many lands in Goldman's graveyard. In Drinkard's graveyard. I take that back. That Knight of the Reliquary has to have upwards of 10 power, I would think. And Tarmogoyf, for as big as he is, isn't getting through that. It's also worth noting here that the ultimate on Garrick Relentless gives trample, so JC's going to be hard pressed to block all of this also. But we'll see. Yep, JC I think is just sending the turn back now. Got some stocked graveyards. Here it comes. Yep. Dark Confidant, Punishing Fire in hand for Drinkard. It's going for the end of turn Punishing Fire, targeting Deathrite Shaman. Looks like we're going to see JC sort of has to decide if he wants to try and go a damage route or if he prefers to try and shrink the Knight of the Reliquary. Honestly, I don't know that either one of those is going to do it. He could exile a land here and go after the remaining lands and Dryad Arbor or something to just to pump up his scavenging ooze, but I think this is all somewhat defeatist. Drinkard untaps for what I assume will be the last turn of the game. If he remembers his Dark Confidant reveal, it is a backup Grove of the Burn Willows. I didn't get a look at what the other draw was, but looks like it was a Life from the Loam. So now things are truly abysmal for Drinkard. JC attempts to exile the Punishing Fire. I think Jason is activating his Grove in response. With the trigger on the stack, then JC can actually exile it again. Although I think if that was what he wanted to go for, he may have wanted to do it on his own end step, not wait until Jason's turn. Given that JC has no hand and there's still a Dryad Arbor in the graveyard, I'm still convinced that the Garruk Ultimate would just end the game right now. Creatures with both Trample and Death Touch. But maybe Jason is willing to drag this one out a little further. In come the 4 Death Touch Wolves. And presumably Dark Confidant and his... Nope, not the Knight of the Reliquary. Only Dark Confidant. All right, looks like the Dark Confidant was blocked by one of the creatures, and the 4 Death Touch Wolves came in for their 4 damage. Life in the Loam will pick up goodness knows what stack of lands as Jason just advances his current lead even further. Looks like his targets are Dark Depths, Grove of the Burn Willows, and maybe one of those Cyclo lands or something for good measure. Oh, just a Savannah. Probably play a land for turn. And send it back JC's way as I don't know what kind of a draw here could save JC. Probably begins with Bloodbraid Elf. Nope, that's the 4 mana for Bloodbraid Elf. We'll see what presence it brings with it, but I'm doubtful. Dark Confidant. Now, time has been called in the round for the non-feature matches. These players have an additional 3 minutes to finish their match, as they were not able to start at the same time as everyone else. Wasteland will take out the Bayou. Bayou is activated, presumably to get rid of some problematic card like Punishing Fire, maybe. Dryad Arbor, both a creature and a land. JC will be able to gain a life. Now, I don't think, even if JC was able to win this game, I'm pretty sure Jason got the first one, and this is only the second game of the match. So even if JC could win this, the best he could hope for is a draw. And Jason is probably fine with this running out, just letting time expire, as a 1-0 win is still a match win. Dark Confidant reveals Knight of the Reliquary, putting him down to just 5 life. And his draw for turn is the green cycle land. Cannot remember that. Tranquil Thicket, sorry. There's Dark Depths yet again, representing the ultimate clock even in turns, as the Thespian stage is already on the table, and as we discussed, the 2020 flying Merit Lage token trumps all of Jun's creatures. Here comes the Goon Squad again. JC is pressed into blocking at least one of these now, as he only has 5 life remaining, and these 5 1/1s represent lethal. Looks like he's blocking 2 of them. He will fall to just 2 life, and I believe Jason's Punishing Fire would be able to finish the game off right then, as JC has no spare mana. Oh, I'm sorry. Jason doesn't have a Punishing Fire. Thought he did. Looks like JC's going to pack it in, as he has been beat for many turns, hanging on, hoping that Dark Confidant would do the job for him, but it did not. Jason Drinkard takes this game and the match 2-0. We will be back momentarily with round 4. Stick around.